Welcome to Foreign Talk from Iraqia News Channel. We're very pleased to have with us today Her Excellency Ms. Viola von Karamon, and she's Chief Observer of EU Election Observation Commission. Ms. Viola, thank you so very much for your kindness, for your time, for the opportunity, and most definitely welcome to Iraq.
Thank you very much. It's a big pleasure being your guest today.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Ms. Viola, if you kindly put us in the history, if you like, of this mission of yours, how it started all about. It came from the Iraqi government request. There is such a body in the European Union already taking place. So just enlighten us on that aspect, if you like, kindly.
Thank
please.
you very much for the questions. The European Union has observed, but only with an expert mission, all of the previous elections before. But at that point, I think the Iraqi government would like to work on the integrity and the transparency of their elections. So the main request came from the Iraqi side itself. The Iraqi authorities requested it, but also the European Union member states were very keen on getting a better picture, a broader picture of how the standards of elections are. And that's why, after all, the Iraqis, but also different movements, civil society, different other organizations in Iraq, plus the will from the European Union to put together an election observation mission ended up in this mission.
Your Excellency, you have repeatedly emphasized the point, observation, not monitoring, correct? What's the difference between these 2 points, if you enlighten our viewers, please?
Thank you. It's a bit tricky because in Arabic,
yeah, this is a misconception, if you like.
Exactly. It is almost the same question. Plus, what we have heard, monitoring is very negative, associated with the former security or intelligence. And this is, of course, a problem. Our job is not to interfere, not to intervene in any processes. We come with our team, we are here on the ground, we ask, we speak to people, we observe, we take note, we look through social media, we receive data, but we are not like spying or close to the government. We are not advising anybody. We are not taking sides. So we are really outside of the game and just observing the entire game, documenting what we are seeing, and then producing an overall assessment, a report. This is our goal. And from this assessment, from this report, where we will include a couple of recommendations how to improve the electoral process and also the next democratic or the steps toward democratic institution, this is our goal, but not to interfere in the election. You
have said there is standards to be made. What your legs to stand on? I mean, international standards you have to make, or why we comply as Iraqis, so to speak, with the foreign rules and regulations, if you like. You're going to impose. If somebody will listen this conversation out there, they will say, these foreigners coming from their countries, imposing their wills on our people. Can you enlighten us on this aspect kindly, please?
Very good point. The Iraqi government has, in 2005, already subscribed to the international standards for election observation and electoral processes. So it was the Iraqi government, it was the Iraqi people, it was the domestic, let's say, forces who decided to comply with international standard, which includes human rights standards, freedom of media, freedom of assembly, and all these, let's say, basic fundamental rights for each and everyone. And with our assessment, we will evaluate how much the standards were met or not. This is one of our tasks here.
You have met, Your Excellency, high influential people within the Iraqi government. I believe you have met His Excellency the President and other figures, I believe, and you have continuous meeting with the Iraqi officials. What is your impression so far with the whole setup?
Well, they seem to be very committed, especially the President gave us a very frank and a very open reception. It was a very friendly, very equal, on equal level talk, conversation, and of course he has an interest that Iraq stays together as a nation, that we see improvement, that people gain back trust in the institution, confidence in the institution, and therefore he hopes that our mission can make a difference, that our mission will finally lead to a higher turnout. We would like to see people participating in this election. We would like to see a higher, let's say, active role of the citizens, of the voters. At that point, I understand that not everyone is convinced that their vote can make a difference.
All right.
But as a politician, and we will have in Germany our federal elections ahead of us,
Yes.
I can only say
Merkel, unfortunately, she's going.
she might be gone after the 26th of September. It's
Correct.
not clear in Germany who will be her successor.
Yeah.
So anyway, what I want to
sorry,
say is in Germany we have the same situation. Many people are very cautious and don't know who to vote and whether to go to the polling stations at all. I mean, it's a different level, but nevertheless, the same attitude.
Yeah.
And I also call and appeal in the same way I do this in Germany to the Iraqi people here and ask them, take your right to vote, please don't, I mean, you have democracy, you have to improve it, but it's up to you to make a decision.
So I sense from your message to the people out there, you yourself are very optimistic the outcome will be positive. I mean, I have been, as an Iraqi, I'm talking about the outside world, the people in the street, they say, I have been through the process. Unfortunately, it wasn't successful. I have been in very bad experience, if you like. International committee was observing, we won't say monitoring, before also. Why is different this time? How you convince them? How you tell them, listen, this hesitation, put it aside. This you will make a difference. Your vote will do that.
Well, I mean, we have a certain methodology. We'll, of course, make sure that we cover as much as we can in terms of media access, in terms of legal challenges, in terms of social media, in terms of intimidation of voters. So we try to really produce a comprehensive report, which, of course, if we publish this, first the preliminary statement and the preliminary report, and then the final report 2 months after the election day, this makes something with Iraq, and maybe also some politicians will, I mean, be concerned about their reputation. And I do hope that people feel more obliged, politicians feel more obliged, parties feel more committed to play after the democratic rules. But of course the expectations are very high, and we cannot ensure any of let's say, the very high expectation of security or so on. We can just say our observation mission has a very, let's say, high task to what we are up to, and we have good experts who have experience in many countries. We put this all together, and I could imagine that at the end of the day you will get, hopefully, a report and recommendations which improve the status of the democracy here in your country.
Can you enlighten us on your details? You say we keep observing different various aspects of media, and what is your team like, and what they specialize in, and how many of them? This kind of details, if you can enlighten us, if you're allowed to do so.
The core team, I mean, is composed of lawyers, party specialists, social media specialists, data specialists, and so on. And of course, they talk. They are already here for the last 2.5 weeks. They will stay after the election day for 2 more months. So overall, they get quite a comprehensive picture and differentiated picture of what's going on. They will speak to many different representatives, groups, party representatives, and so on. And of course, this, as I said, will put together and will lead into, hopefully, recommendation and a report which can make a difference. But of course, I mean, the optimistic is maybe a little bit too much valuating of, I have no position at all. I don't know whether we will, in the end, at the election day, have a more rosy picture, or what is the tendency. We do our part. Right. It's still more than 20 days until the election day. Many things can happen, and I can just appeal to the Iraqi people, to the citizens, that they think about what candidate they would trust into and where they put their cross or their decision.
You said your team, and you're appealing to the Iraqi people. Is your team covering the whole of Iraq, or there are certain areas you focus on? What exactly, if you enlighten us on that?
At the election day, we will be joined by a short-term observers mission. There will be also people from the European Parliament, and so we will have altogether 80 people on board. 80, yes. But I mean, you know yourself, you have a big country. It will be very difficult to cover this entirely. But we will try to get best samples. We will, of course, assess the security situation ahead of the election day. And then we will find the polling stations where we end up for observing. But the plan is that we cover as much as possible.
And Your Excellency, after you met the Iraqi officials, you have seen there is cooperation. They are willing. I mean, there is flexibility to move as you wish, and there is no restrictions and all this. So far?
My wish is just that they play after the rules. I have no executive mandate to enforce anything at that point, and I would never say this.
You ask as a friend.
I ask as an observer, as an impartial person, watching the situation as it is. And I hope that everyone understands what is on stake. I hope that people understand that they have a high responsibility, that it needs transformation in this country. It needs less, I would say, corruption in the system. It needs more transparency, but it is up to the acting people to do so. It is not up to me to enforce anyone to do so.
You have mentioned, when you just start our conversation, you have mentioned you're going to cooperate with other players, if you like international organizations, maybe NGOs. Can you enlighten us on that aspect, please?
Well, there are a couple of local observation service. Yes, of course. We will meet, and we have met with them regularly. There's an exchange. But
talking about locals, correct?
To hear from their experience, but we are not co-opting them in our team. We are independent, they are independent. The same is true for the UN, for the United Nations monitoring mission. Of course, we meet, we exchange experience, but we have two different mandates. They're assisting and monitoring the government. We're just observing. We are outside. We are not referee. We are not interfering. So these are two different mandates. But of course, we meet and we exchange the information.
You also cooperating with the United Nations?
Not cooperating, no.
So what is the right word?
Coordinating. We do not want to duplicate our work. So they tell us what they're doing. They have a different mandate, and we share our information with them. But in terms of work, no, we are not cooperating.
You said when the election finished, we won't go ahead quickly, but when it's finished, you're going to write your reports. That reports, you think there will be any impact on anybody negatively or positively in that matter? And in which way?
Well, in most of the cases, in most of the countries, it does a difference, and it has an impact. I cannot say for Iraq at that moment. I don't know how the report will look like. I don't know the reaction of the executive, of the government, of the parliamentarians, but we will present, we will publish, we will talk. We will try to convince that they take our recommendations on board as much as we wish. But, and also we will publish this internationally. People will see, get a more inside view on what's going on during the election, before the election. How is the system based and how does it work? But otherwise, as I said, it's up to the Iraqi government and the parliamentarians to either follow or not follow the recommendation, comply or not comply.
Okay, I know your schedule is very hectic, and I'm very grateful for this opportunity. If you have Iraqis are watching Your Excellency now, if you have a message to them, what will be?
Well, I mean, stay critical.
All right.
But nevertheless, take part in these elections and try to make a difference with your decision.
Once again, we're very grateful and thank you so very much. And thank you very much, our dear viewers. That was our interview with Her Excellency Ms. Viola von Karamon, Chief Observer of EU Election Observation Commission. Thank you very much, and please be safe. I will see you once again next time. Thank you so very much. Thank you, Excellency.